Hi, I'm Yousef Cisco, and I'm here to talk to you about front-end from scratch. I'm a front-end Magento developer, and I've been working with Magento for a few years now. I currently work at Vimo in London. So, building a front-end from scratch, what does that actually mean? I mean, not relying on enterprise default. This is usually discouraged because everybody just says, the default themes work, it's fine. But what I'm here to tell you is that you can optimize your front end a lot by not relying on the native Magento themes. So I'm going to start this off with a little bit of a disclaimer. This is mostly geared towards enterprise level customers or devs working client side. And the techniques discussed today were developed by the team at Ampersand, who are incredible. So, why? Building a theme from scratch can greatly reduce your technical debt. You don't inherit 6 or 7 years worth of theme debt from somebody else. And the theme that you build in the end will only contain the features that the client needs, and none of the bloat. Your team will be able to better maintain the site because it's their own code base. And this has actually been recommended by Magento in their own white paper on improving enterprise performance. I can go on about why for a lot longer, but I only have 10 minutes. So, actually building a theme from scratch. You start off with the basics, create a new package, create a new theme, create an empty page.xml, nothing. That's where you start writing your global layout. And you'd think it's this easy, but it's Magento, so no. So Magento actually forces base default as a final fallback. And allowing this through will cause a lot of unexpected behavior and a lot of issues, especially with third-party plugins trying to inject their own CSS, JavaScript, templates, everywhere in your theme, and none of it will work. So there's a simple fix. Rewrite Mage core model design package and stop that fallback to base default. And you obviously add exceptions for modules and vendors that you want to allow through. So this is Mage core design package. This is a fallback function, and you can see base default is hard-coded right in the middle there. So the rewrite simply puts an if statement around that, and that has the list of exceptions. This is all on, the gist is on GitHub, so you can check it out later. And this is a quick and simple solution. I know this can be done a lot better, but I think this was done by one of the devs in like 10 minutes, so it worked, it's fine. And the next thing you'd want to do is add a new page type. So we've all felt the mess of 1 column and 2 column left, and Magento actually allows you to add your own page type in there. So I used html.phtml because it was a cool sounding name, and at this point you might want to create your own page module so you can include all these customizations. In that module, just in the config.xml, you define your new page type. I've called it vendor default, added the template, set it as default, and unset 1 column as default. So from there you'll be able to use that as your base template for the entire theme. The next thing, you're going to start handcrafting your layout, and by that I mean don't just copy Magento layout or structure. Build the layout that the site needs. Make sure it's modular. Don't place all of the layout updates into 1 or 2 files. And once you start doing this for a while, you'll actually learn a lot about the layout system and how powerful it is. You can learn by example from the Magento themes, or you can use the great Alan Storm's No Frills Magento layout, which is a great reference. And then you can start creating your own templates. Write clean templates, use native templates for inspiration. Again, don't copy. And we've actually found at Ampersand that hacking a native template to look like a complex design actually takes the same amount of time as just writing it from scratch and copying a couple of function calls. Again, keep your templates modular, so structure them for easy reusability and maintainability, and sort of follow Magento's lead on where to place template files and the folder structure. The next big thing is integrating Gulp or Grunt into your front end. So there's a lot of front end tools out there to help you build sites faster, and you can use these for more than just Sass. I'm going to go through a few examples today. Sorry, now. You can use Kraken.io to optimize your images. So this is actually a really basic task that will loop through all the images in your skin directory and optimize them. You're like literally shaving off kilobytes, not having to do anything like after running a 2-second task. If you do a lot of international sites, you can create a custom task to help with translations. So this was done on one of Ampersand's clients, and it was just a custom Grunt task that looped through all of the templates, blocks, and layout, and found anything that was sent through a translation function, and then compared it against existing CSV translate files. So if that string of text was not already translated, it would put it into a new CSV file, which we can send off to the translation company, and then it just comes back translated. So that process was a lot easier, it was a lot smoother, and a tech-savvy PM could actually do the whole thing without developer intervention. You can also use Grunt to generate your own icon font, which means that you're only loading the icons that your website needs. So designers find it really easy to provide SVGs with all their icons, and you just drop them into an icon folder, run the Grunt task, and bam, you have your own icon font for that site. One tip I have about this is standardize the method that you're generating SVGs to avoid issues with sizing, because that could be a real pain. And of course, use less Sass. So a lot of agencies have already adopted this. Magento 2 has adopted it as well, and it gives you access to a wider feature set, which is great. But one thing that I've noticed some agencies are doing is bundling. We're still bundling all of our styles into a single styles.css, the same as Magento does in the native themes. So that's not really optimal. We can optimize the files that the user is loading by grouping them together. So you have global styles, listing styles, PDP styles, and checkout basket. So then the user is only loading the styles that they need as they go along through the user journey. And it also means that it reduces your drop-off rate on the homepage, because the user isn't having to load tens of kilobytes of CSS that they're not actually going to use to render the homepage, and they get a faster customer experience there and then throughout the site. And the next, also a big thing, merge and minify your JavaScript. So obviously this I think it's been really daunting to integrate Grunt or Gulp JavaScript minification and merging into Magento because of the complex theme setup. So this varies widely, and this depends on your theme setup. If you're building a single responsive theme, then this is quite straightforward. Just minify all your JavaScript, merge it, you're good. If you're still building mobile themes and desktop themes separately, then you need to do a little bit more complicated, but it's still doable, and it was done before. So you basically customize the task to generate, to minify and merge JavaScript files for each theme separately, and you run the theme fallback strategy in JavaScript, which was actually really fun to create. Yep. And then optimize your JavaScript. So I think every front-end and back-end developer here has felt the pain of using inline JavaScript with all of the messes that Magento has left in the theme. So completely avoid that. Do not put any inline JavaScript in your themes. You're in your templates. You're creating it from scratch. It's going to be beautiful. Don't create the mess. The only time that we would put inline scripts in is when you're outputting JSON data from the backend to the front end. So then your JavaScript can consume that data and use it in the front end application. This allows you to load all of your scripts, and I mean all of your libraries, right at the bottom of the page, so you're not blocking rendering. This includes Prototype, if you're still using that, or jQuery, because there's going to be no conflict with any inline scripts running on the page. And again, you want to group all of your merged and minified JavaScript by the page type. So you would have the global libraries, global scripts, product listings page, product details page, checkout. And then from there, you can start doing really cool things. So if the user's on the basket, you're asynchronously loading the checkout JavaScript. So as soon as they hit the checkout page, they're off and running to a good start. And of course, I've talked a lot about optimizing your JavaScript, but you won't feel any of the benefit if you keep the native Magento CSS and JS merger. The functionality that Magento has built is actually quite basic and can force the user to download the same files over and over again. So completely disable it, and it'll be a lot better. One last thing is actually use your JavaScript. Within Magento front-end community, I don't feel like we leverage browser power as much as we should. The browsers are becoming a lot more powerful, and it's completely pointless not to be utilizing that. So move some of the functionality that you're having on the server over to the browser. And your customers will have a visible speed increase because the sites will feel a lot more responsive. And you'll also get shorter response times because you're just sending JSON data back and forth instead of fully rendered HTML. So you'll find that as you start doing this a lot, you'll need to give structure to your JavaScript to avoid jQuery selector hell, which dealing with Magento, we will all help. And so you'll need to find a JavaScript MVC framework that works for you, and then stick with it. And from there, you can start building your own JavaScript modules. So I think I spoke about this last year. Ampersand built an Ajax cart module. which defined its own JavaScript API that uses JavaScript promises. And then that was dropped onto different projects. And each project would have to implement just the views and the UX part, and that would talk directly to the API. And it wouldn't have any knowledge of what requests are being made, what parameters the server needs, any of that. It's just sending JSON product data over to the API. The API comes back with the full cart and totals. And this will also allow you to better cache your sites using tools like Varnish, because most of the dynamic functionality is actually being done in the browser as opposed to on the server. And the last one is once you start leveraging browsers for rendering, then you'll need a tool like Mustache. So Mustache just allows you to render the same templates in a lot of different environments, and in the context of Magento, it allows you to render the same exact template server-side and client-side, which means you're only maintaining a single template, and you're leveraging the right environment you're leveraging the right environment when you need it. So for example, on a product listings page, you wouldn't want to hit your customer up with a loading spinner as soon as they see that page. You'd want to render those products on the server. So then you're reducing their time to first product. As soon as they click a facet or try to filter the products, you return JSON data and render those same products with the same template, new products with the same template in the browser, again, reducing their time to first product. This also reduces and removes any issues with JS rendered pages and SEO because you're leveraging server-side rendering for the first page view. And Ampersand has kindly released their own Mustache module. You can access it on the URL there. The Magento module still uses core template blocks, so you still have access to all of Magento's translation power and whatever else theme functionality you need. And it allows you to render the templates server-side as well as render script tags, so you can consume those templates client-side. It doesn't have a lot of documentation, but I promise I'll do a pull request soon and put it up there. So what I'm talking about today is basically the start of a better and faster front end. This is a starting point to all the cool things that you've always wanted to create. The front-end community has standardized a lot of things, and it's time that we standardize Magento on modern technologies and not a theme built 7 years ago. Questions at the end, right? Yeah. Thank you.